Do people cheer as much for cars as they do for drivers? Detroit brought their specially built and shaped cars to Darlington in '69, just as they have today, and the track was earning its reputation as too tough to tame. The late Leroy won twice at Darlington in '69. Shapes have come full circle since then, although hairstyles have changed, and today's participant is a little more daring. The class of '85's valedictorian was Darrell Waltrip, Winston Cup champion, although Bill Elliott was salutatorian with 11 wins last year, including 2 here at Darlington. No one has come to the head of the 1986 class. Jeff Bodine took his Chevy to Daytona's victory lane. Then at Richmond, Ford driver Kyle Petty drove through a crash late in the race to capture his first win. At Rockingham, Terry Labonte got GM back in the winning track when he outclassed the field in his Oldsmobile, and fans began to wonder if all 4 GM makes could win a race. At Atlanta, Morgan Shepherd surprised many by raising his hand and saying yes to the question, can a Buick win? And then, just last week, Rusty Wallace ran away and hid from the field in his Pontiac, making it 5 different winners in as many makes of cars for the class of 1986. Your #1 Auto Racing Network presents Auto Racing 86. Welcome you to the track too tough to tame, Darlington International Raceway in South Carolina for the Trans-South 500, stop number 6 on the Winston Cup Trail for 1986. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins. We have a beautiful day here in South Carolina with sunny skies, temperatures in the upper 70s. Well, NASCAR certainly has achieved parity in its racing. In the first 5 races of this year, 5 different winners and 5 different makes of cars in victory lane. Joining me in the broadcast booth for today's race will be Jack Arute, and really the story, Jack, goes beyond 1986.
That it does. It goes all the way back to 1985. In the last 11 races run by NASCAR, there have been 11 different drivers. Also remember that every conceivable make of car that is in competition in 1986 has scored a victory, and we're only going into the 6th stop on the circuit.
A Ford has visited victory lane in 1986. Kyle Petty drove one to victory at Richmond, but the Fords have not been doing well here this weekend.
No, they haven't. Now, Ricky Rudd has qualified well. He's up there in the 8th position, but starting 21st, 22nd, and 23rd are the other Fords, with guys like Bill Elliott, Cale Yarborough, and Kenny Schrader. And they're scratching their heads. They think it might be due to a rules change that came into play a couple of weeks ago involving spoilers and front air dams. We'll get into that a little more as we get into the telecast.
On the front row for today's race, teammates on the pole, Jeff Bodine alongside Tim Richmond. Let's get more on that story as we go to our 3rd member of the broadcast crew for today's race, working the pit area. Here is Dick Berggren.
Bob, both cars on the front row here are out of the Rick Hendrick stable. And the Hendrick stable right now is one of the strongest in automobile racing in the United States. Last weekend, for example, with 3 different cars in 3 different divisions, all on the same day, Hendrick cars broke track records. Jeff Bodine is starting on the pole here with the same car he used last weekend to break the track record at Bristol, and he's broken the track record here at Darlington. Given that he's also the 1986 Daytona 500 winner, Bodine is certainly a favorite. But starting outside him is his teammate, Tim Richmond. Richmond hasn't won a race in the Winston Cup division since 1984. But he's got a solidified team, a very strong car, and a very positive attitude. Richmond thinks he, too, can win. But to win, he must finish. And this is one of the most demanding, least forgiving racetracks on the circuit. Bob?
Thank you, Dick. We have 40 cars and drivers lined up to take the green flag in the Trans-South 500, which is being brought to you by Dodge, a performance revolution, an American revolution. And by Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them. And by Busch Beer, the beer with a taste as smooth as its name. Settle back in your easy chair. We have about 4.5 hours of racing, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Dodge Daytona Turbo Z. It'll be an
expressway to your heart.
Now you can get up to $1,000 cash back on all new American-made Dodge cars. Thanks again, America.
In 1985, the winning cars of the most prestigious auto races were equipped with Goodyear Racing Eagles. So it's small wonder that in 1986, most of the finest high-performance street cars are equipped with Goodyear Eagles. You either have Goodyear Eagles or you need them.
Man has always been fascinated with speed. But in a sport where there is no margin for error, winning is more than a quest for speed. It's a measure of skill. Test the guts. And though NASCAR has changed through the decades, its spirit still rests on what men who race have always known. It's not just the machine, it's the man who drives it. We're proud to be part of this great sport. Busch, the official beer of NASCAR.
The command has been given. The engines are started. There is an aerial view of Darlington International Raceway, and you can see very clearly that this is not an exactly shaped oval. It's more egg-shaped, Jack.
Well, Bob, that's what the drivers refer to it. As you look to the upper left of your screen, that's actually turns 1 and 2, and then over in the bottom side is 3 and 4. They're beginning to pull away, so we better get to row assignments right now.
40 cars ready to go, and here is the starting lineup for the Trans-South 500 on the pole with a new track record of 159.197 from Chemung, New York in the Levi Garrett Chevrolet. Jeff Bodine alongside in car number 25, Tim Richmond in the Folgers Coffee Chevrolet. Second row, Benny Parsons, car 55, the Copenhagen Oldsmobile, and Dale Earnhardt in number 3, Wrangler Jean Chevrolet. The third row, number 12, Budweiser Chevrolet with Neil Bonnet. Outside, Joe Ruttman in 26, the Quaker State Buick. In row number 4, Sterling Marlin in the Bullseye Barbecue Sauce Chevy car number 1, and Ricky Rudd in the Motorcraft Ford car 15. In the 5th row will be Harry Gant in the Skull Bandit Chevrolet number 33, and Darrell Waltrip in the number 11 Budweiser Chevrolet. In the 6th row, car 44, the Piedmont Airlines Chevrolet with Terry Lamonti, and outside will be Bobby Allison in the number 22 Miller American Buick. The 7th row, Rusty Wallace, last week's winner in the Al Ugard Pontiac car 27, and Buddy Baker in the number 88 Crisco Oldsmobile. Then in row number 8, Morgan Shepherd in car 47, the Raceville Farms Buick, and Richard Petty in the familiar number 43 STP Pontiac. The 9th row, Jody Ridley in number 75, the Nationwide Auto Parts Pontiac, and Bobby Dillon in the Middle American Buick, car number 8. In row number 10 will be Mike Waltrip in car number 23, and Bill Parsons in 66. The 11th row for today's race will have Bill Elliott in car number 9 and Ken Schrader in number 90. The 12th row, car 28, Cale Yarborough, and 98, Ron Bouchard. In the 13th row, Rick Wilson in car number 4 and Davey Allison in car number 95. Those make up car row number 13, Rick Wilson and Davey Allison. Then in the 14th row will be Kyle Petty in number 7 and H.B. Bailey in 36. After that, in row number 15, Alan Kowicki in 35 and Trevor Boyes in number 6. The 16th row has Jimmy Means in 52 and Tommy Ellis in 18. The 17th row, Eddie Bierschwald in 94 and Ronnie Thomas in 48. The 18th row, Dave Marcus in 71 and Doug Hebron in 17. In row number 19, Connie Saylor in 64 and J.D. McDuffie in number 70. And in the 20th and final row, Bobby Waywack in 74 and Mark Stahl in car number 82. There is the front row, Jeff Bodine and Tim Richmond, and they are down the backstretch, and we should be going green next time around.
And this is a tricky place for taking the green flag. You've got to be careful to get yourself into single file position by the time you dive into turn one. So the outside row really looks for a spot being held by the inside row when they drop the green flag. But it's very tricky when they come out of 4 and look at Harold Kinder's green flag.
Boy, you just can't pick a winner in this race. There are upwards of 20 or 25 cars and drivers very capable of winning this race. We are in Buddy Baker's car number 88, sponsored by Crisco, and we hope to have excellent shots from the interior of this car throughout the Trans-South 500 this afternoon. There is Buddy, who's lined up in 14th starting position. Alongside him, Rusty Wallace, the winner of last week's Bristol race. Here comes the field off of corner number 4. Harold Kinder waves the green flag, and we are racing at Darlington. Jeff Bodine gets a terrible start.
He's in trouble, Bob.
He is dropping back on the field. Benny Parsons and several others are trapped behind him. Meanwhile,
2 cars in the wall, 2 on the high side in turn 2.
One of them is Ron Bouchard involved in a skirmish up there. The other one is the number 95 car of Davey Allison. Not serious wall contact, but there was some scraping of the wall, and you can see that Davey Allison's machine has been damaged, and the bodywork pushed against the right front tire, the left front, I should say. They race back to the yellow flag, and Tim Richmond edges out Dale Earnhardt for the lead, but just by a scant car length.
I'm going to lead and speculate, Bob, that possibly the problem that befell Jeff Bodine, as we look at Davey Allison limping onto pit road, could have set off a chain reaction that resulted in the crash by Davey. Because as we said before, they have to come into that first turn and find a line, single file. So we'll take a look at the restart of this race and see if we can see where it telegraphs itself back to Davey Allison.
Well, you'll remember that last week, Jeff Bodine also had a tough time at the beginning of the race.
Now, watch the number 7 car, and let's see what happens there with Kyle Petty. See if we can see where he goes. He's further down back. There he dives to the inside, looking to get out of the way as the field on the inside is slowing down because they're all behind Bodine. That's telegraphing itself back, car by car by car, almost like you're on an interstate and you pull up to an accident where everybody stops. You just begin to deck them up.
Well, here's Jeff Bodine pulling into the pit area, and also behind him comes Kyle Petty. Now, the Levi Garrett crew, headed by Gary Nelson, is running to the Jeff Bodine car to push it into his pit area. Let's get out to Dick Berggren.
Well, here comes Bodine in his pit. His crew is pushing him. At this point, they don't know what's wrong with the car, but it seems as if the engine has conked out on it at the moment. Gary Nelson now in. That's what they're doing. They're working on the electrical system of the car. Nelson changing over to the spare electrical system. Each of these cars has 2 electric systems in it. He is now moving to the backup system. It tried to fire. It just backfired up through the carburetor. Bodine in serious trouble. They've moved the timing light in here now. This is definitely not the way to start the race.
And Dick, remember yesterday in the late model sportsman race, they had a problem with the number 15 car from the Rick Hendrick stable, and it was electrical as well.
Well, let's go to Benny Parsons. We have a radio in Benny's car, and we'll see how this problem with Jeff Bodine affected him. Benny, this is Bob up in the booth. You were kind of trapped there behind Jeff Bodine, who had a problem at the start.
Bob, I didn't know what to do. I hated to pull out because the pedals on the outside were going so fast. I felt like if I pulled up in front of someone, they might hit me.
Well, Jeff is in the pits right now, and it looks like it could be a serious problem for him. Now, what do you do, having lost several positions here on the first lap?
Well, yeah, I don't really know what to do right now. Just try to run as best I can and follow. There's some good guys in front of me. Just try to follow these people. If I can't pass them, go ahead and do it.
Is the car running okay at this point?
Seem to be fine that one lap.
All right, Benny, we'll continue to be with you throughout the afternoon. Let's go down to Dick once again for this further update on Jeff Bodine.
Well, Bob, they've just put a new distributor in Bodine's car, apparently going back to the old electrical system. The backup electrical system didn't do it, so the new distributor went in. Incidentally, in the last practice session yesterday afternoon, they had to change the electrical system in Tim Richmond's car when it failed as well. So here's the 2 top cars. Both have had electrical problems within the last 24 hours.
Kyle Petty, by the way, has been placed at the rear of the field for jumping the start. Here we go again. The screen comes out on lap number 4, and the Trans-South 500 is underway once again. Jeff Bodine remains in the pit area while his teammate Tim Richmond leads the others through turn number 2, and now onto the backstretch. Dale Earnhardt is running second. Joe Ruttman is third, followed by Ricky Rudd, then Darrell Waltrip, and Bobby Allison, then Sterling Marlin.
These front 3 cars have looked to pull away just a little bit. Richmond, though, we're going to have to watch on him. He's got to be thinking, Bob, that what's been falling on his teammate's car.
Earnhardt and Joe Ruttman have more or less separated themselves from the rest of the field. Now Joe Ruttman looking strong, watching inside of Earnhardt, and Earnhardt squirrely coming off the second corner.
Richmond is very, very loose. Earnhardt just took drastic action to try and avoid Richmond, but Richmond was very loose coming out of that corner.
And he drops back 2 positions and may lose another one here. Joe Ruttman in car number 26 has moved into second spot. The lead now goes to Dale Earnhardt, and we'll replay what happened over in turn number 2.
Watch Richmond. Richmond's tail will begin to bobble, and then Earnhardt makes a choice to try to go to the inside. It almost sets off another accident.
So Earnhardt with the lead, and Joe Ruttman in second position. Joe with a second-place finish this year at Richmond. But other than that, the car has just not held together for him. He's hoping for an excellent finish here this afternoon, and he's certainly one of those capable of making it number 12, different driver to visit victory lane. Richard Petty in car number 43, we understand, had a scrape of the wall. But Richard right now continuing to be at speed on the racetrack. He is in 12th position right now, and behind him is Harry Gant in car 33.
You cannot run Darlington International Raceway without getting into the wall at least once or twice, and anybody, including a king like Richard Petty, will be quick to tell you that. But this early, that would cause concern for how the car's handling.
And an interesting development as far as Richard Petty is concerned with his physical health. You recall he had an accident at Daytona in which he broke some ribs, and he has a special hookup in the cockpit today to more or less relax his neck.
Well, yeah, it's something out of what I would say a Rube Goldberg handbook for head restraints. But Dick Bergeron can explain to us a little bit later about that.
So 18 laps have been completed now. We have 367 that will make up this 500-mile race at Darlington, and we'll be back for more after these messages.
Fuel-injected Dodge Lancers come with optional turbochargers, and you can't expect that kind of power to stay put.
It's the boys' night out, and they're cruising around. The boys' night out, and they're doing the ground. They're ripping up, heading out, looking for...
Now you can get up to $1,000 cash back on all new American-made Dodge cars. Thanks again, America.
Pro Hardware's ready for a great Pros sale. Pro is selection and Pros advice. Pro is service and Pros a great price. Pro's your best value with savings like these. A 10.5-ounce cartridge of Mako liquid nails is Pro priced at just $1.19. This Genova 5-inch by 10-foot PVC gutter section, white or brown, is only $3.99. And Tool King's tubular steel camping axe is Pro priced at only $4.99. Come to the great Pro Hardware sale now for
Pro advice was a real good price.
See the yellow pages for your participating Pro Hardware dealer.
Back at Darlington International Raceway in the Trans-South 500, the cars that started on the front row have had their problems. Jeff Bodine is behind a wall at this point, and Tim Richmond is also experiencing some handling problems, Jack.
Now, watch the tail wag on Richmond's car. Well, actually, we're a little too far into it, and it already had happened. But Earnhardt did the best he could to get down to the inside. And while we were away, Dick Bergeron reported that Harry Hyde told him that they had intentionally set the car up, Richmond's car, to be loose going in. It's just a little looser than they wanted to be. And I'll tell you what, Bob, I have never heard of a crew chief setting a car up being loose going into a race at Darlington. Almost every driver will tell you they want a little bit of push in the car when they start the race.
Joe Ruttman trailing Dale Earnhardt. Here's the shot from out the rear window of Buddy Baker's car. That's Benny Parsons trailing him. Some excellent shots from the in-car camera. This is 7th and 8th. Buddy is in 7th position, and Benny is in 8th spot in the number 55 Copenhagen car.
did you see the way Benny kept looking to the outside, pointing the nose over there, trying to just check out and see if maybe he could get by Buddy, and then thought better of it?
Let's go down to Dick Berggren in the pit area, who has Jeff Bodine. Dick?
Well, I'm with Jeff Bodine, the disappointed pole sitter. Jeff, a tough break.
The shortest day I think I've ever had racing. It looks like we broke a camshaft. The distributor won't turn. The engine just quit running. Shifted into third gear and it just quit on the start. It's a tough break, but it's part of racing, Dick. I mean, these fellas work hard on these engines and do the best they can, and a camshaft braking is just a freak thing. We haven't seen any of that in a long while.
Can they fix that, Jeff?
No. They can fix it when they take the engine apart, but that's all. It's broke down inside the engine, so we're out for the day, but it's still been a heck of a year. We won Daytona, got a couple track records already, a lot of racing left. The Rick Hendrick team has got a lot to be proud of. Tim Richmond's still out there. Let's hope he has a good day.
That's Jeff Bodine. He sat on the pole. He is out of it already. First car to drop out.
You know, that's an interesting point, Bob. Whoever talked to Jeff Bodine since he won the Daytona 500, he says, my whole season has been made just by that one victory. I'm the Daytona 500 champion. You can see it in his attitude, even when he drops out of a race as early as he did here.
Last week was not particularly good for Jeff either. He finished 24th, and today will have to be listed, I believe, as the 40th finisher, last place. There's Dale Earnhardt. You know, the times that a driver turns in the final practice session is always important, and last evening, Dale Earnhardt was the fastest in practice. That may be an indication of things to come here this afternoon.
Look how far back Tim Richmond has fallen. He's directly in front of Buddy Baker, our camera car, after starting on the outside pole. And if that doesn't mean that you've got your hands full, you're running back there in, what, 6th position? Let's see if we can see if the car begins to bobble at all as he comes through those corners. Now, on the back there, you see how they all try and line up single file, run as close to the wall as they can, and they hurtle down into that turn number 3 area. There you can see the car wag its tail as he went down through the corner. You know what Baker's thinking right now? How much room do I give him? Because this guy could lose it at any moment.
And by the same token, Benny Parsons, who is right behind Buddy, probably thinking the same thing. We're watching 6th place Tim Richmond, our in-car camera in Buddy Baker's car. He's 7th, and behind Buddy is the number 55 car of Benny Parsons. We've completed 19 laps here in the Trans-South 500, and the lead continues to be held by Dale Earnhardt, with Joe Ruttman running in 2nd spot. There's a line going into the 3rd corner, and you notice how the car just dives down from the straightaway into the turn and kind of goes low on the groove.
He does, but he's really got his hands full, because when a car is loose, it'd be like you or I driving our car on ice or in a very rainy condition. The ends want to swap with each other, and you've got to turn that wheel, lock it down as hard as you can, and let it begin to slide, and then overcorrect and back it back up again. Now Baker says, I've had enough of this. I'm going to try to get around him. He runs out of space before he gets to turn 3, and he's got to watch the Folger's tail wag one more time.
Now they go into corner number 4. Tim Richmond still holding on to that 6th spot with Buddy Baker right behind him. No change of position on this lap.
This, I'll tell you what, if you want to get a feel for what running Darlington is like, go turn the volume up on your TV right now as loud as you possibly can get it. Turn the heat up to about 90 degrees and sit in the smallest chair you've got and wrap yourself with a couple of ace bandages. You'll get a feel for what it's like to be out in Darlington and sit there for 4.5 hours and don't move.
Not exactly the most pleasant way to spend a Sunday afternoon, but that's how these guys do it. You can see they're lapping some slower traffic now, going high on the racetrack to pass the back markers. Now Buddy once again sticks his nose to the inside of Tim Richmond as they go down the backstretch.
You know, that restart has been costly for Benny Parsons. You know, he said he had no place to go, and he's mired back here in the second 5, let us say. And you know, he was running so well in practice, and now you've got to be careful. You've got to pick your spot. You can't just go past here like you would in Atlanta or Talladega or a place like that. This is a tricky racetrack. It looks wide, but there's only one groove all the way around.
It is a very wide racetrack, but you can see that most of the track is apron. The actual groove that they use here to run on is very, very small. Baker continuing to stock Tim Richmond, and Benny Parsons is right behind Buddy Baker. Benny Parsons, who was with us in the broadcast booth yesterday, describing the action of the Grand National race here that was won by Darrell Waltrip, today in the cockpit of the Oldsmobile and currently running in 8th spot. The leader, Dale Earnhardt. Running second is Joe Ruttman, and third, Ricky Rudd. Back with more from Darlington, South Carolina.
Absorbing Jr. invites all hard-working Americans to rub it in. Rub it in, rub it in. Rub it in, rub it in. Absorbing Jr., the big rub-it-in solution for sore, aching muscles. With deep, penetrating action that gets under your skin fast for soothing relief. Put it on my back, my cycle really act. Absorbing Jr. Rub it in, rub it in.
All the right parts in all the right places. Napa's putting smiles on American faces.
Turn to the Napa sign, where auto repair experts install parts for import and domestic vehicles. Parts backed by the Napa National Warranty Program, where brake shocks and mufflers are guaranteed for as long as you own your car, where car care pros do the job right. Look for the garage or service outlet with the Napa sign of quality.
All the right parts in all the right places. Napa.
Hi again, everyone. I'm Tom Mees in the Sports Center. I hope you're enjoying the Auto Racing 86 performance of the Trans-South 500 from the Lady in Black, Darlington in South Carolina. We're going to move ahead now in the Trans-South 500. 130 laps have been completed with Dale Earnhardt still in the lead. The drivers, when we return, have just completed their second round of pit stops with Harry Gant and Joe Ruttman running a close second and third. Back to the Darlington International Raceway now as we resume our coverage of the Trans-South 500.
At the Trans-South 500 in Darlington, South Carolina, with 130 laps completed, Dale Earnhardt is the leader. Harry Gant is second, Joe Ruttman third, Ricky Rudd is fourth, and Darrell Waltrip running in fifth position. We have 12 cars that are currently on the lead lap. Sixth is Bobby Allison, seventh is Sterling Marlin, eighth is Benny Parsons, ninth Buddy Baker, 10th is Neil Bonnet, 11th is the number 25 car of Tim Richmond, and then in 12th position is Morgan Shepherd. And right ahead of Morgan Shepherd, there is Morgan moving to the inside right now at the end of the straightaway, the front straightaway. And Dale Earnhardt is running right behind Morgan, so Morgan is in the chance of being lapped at the moment for 12th position. And running together on the racetrack is Bobby Allison and also Benny Parsons. This is the race for 6th, 7th, and 8th position. And also Sterling Marlin there in car number 1 is battling for position. 3 cars in a race for the spot here.
Looks like Marlin wanted to follow Bobby Allison along the high side and then thought better of it. Benny Parsons stayed in his groove like he should as he maintained his line going into the corner. Now Benny's going to look to the inside of Bobby, see if he can get it. Looks like the cars actually wobble or wiggle a little bit as they come out of the corner. But it is the suspension taking a set as it comes out of the corner and getting ready for the run down the backstretch. Benny tried the high side one more time from the look up there, but Bobby covered the spot. Did he do it this time?
6th, 7th, and 8th going at it here. Benny to the inside of Bobby Allison at the end of the front stretch. The cars side by side. They go into turn 1 side by side, and Benny has the line. He goes into 6th spot. A nice move there by Benny.
And a nice move by Bobby, too. Bobby knows what the etiquette is. He said he was up alongside my doorpost. It's his position. He backed out, allowed Benny the free line going into turn 1.
Now we'll see if Sterling Marlin can talk Bobby into doing the same thing for him. There is Sterling Marlin in car number